In this video, we are going to talk about the stars for June 2024 and how they're going to influence you. If you don't already know me, I am Ev Zervoudakis, founder of Holistic Healing Astrology here in beautiful Virginia Beach, Virginia. So let's take a look at all the notes that we have, and they're posted on the bottom so you could follow along with the format of this video. I am going to pull up the chart for the sky, and we're going to start with June 1st, and we're going to end at the end of June. So I will be sharing with you the first thing in order all the way down. So June 1st, 2024, here in Virginia Beach, we're going to focus on the planets, which are in this little area here, scattered around the chart, and the signs. So you know what I'm talking about. And as a review, these are the houses by number. They go counterclockwise, and these are the signs. You notice that degrees and minutes are everywhere in the chart. It's very important to understand. And I am working on this in the book for you guys that are patiently waiting for where to start in astrology, how to take your chart and decode it yourself. It's for the DIYers. So let's look at the first thing. Number one, we are in Gemini season, and that's when the sun is in Gemini. But we also have other elements in Gemini. We have Jupiter in Gemini. That's the biggie, because Jupiter is going to stay in Gemini for 1 year. And you see here the planet Mercury is soon approaching Gemini, which will be on, you can watch these numbers here. Whoops. On June 3rd, it will be 0 degrees Gemini. So remember, we're looking at a big clock here. Everything keeps moving. The houses stay pretty much the same. They change in sizes based on location, but the signs move and the planets move as well. Each one has a different speed and a different path. So Jupiter is in Gemini, and it's going to take 1 year for Jupiter to go through this blue area of Gemini. Okay? So you could look on your chart and find that area from 0 degrees Gemini, 0 minutes, to 29 degrees, 59 minutes in Gemini. That will take a whole year for this planet here, Jupiter, to go across. And that's where you're going to see this influence of Jupiter. So let's start with the discussion of Jupiter. Jupiter, and we call it in astrology, ingresses, when it goes into a new sign from from Taurus to Jupiter. It started May 27th. It was at 0 degrees, and it will stay in Gemini until 2025. Well, what does Jupiter mean? Jupiter is the ruling planet of Sagittarius, which is this area of a chart, and it's usually in the 9th house. So that rules ideals, law, rules, different culture, overseas travel, publishing, ethics, morals, values, higher education. So Gemini is always opposite of Sagittarius. And in astrology, when you look at one side of the chart, you always have to look at what's opposite because they share similar energies and frequencies. One is at one level and one is at a different level. Think of a seesaw. Okay. One goes up, one goes down. All righty. I'm breaking it down very, very methodically and slowly for all of those that are new in astrology. For those of you that know all your stuff, but still find it interesting, you could always change the setting in YouTube and make it go faster, or you could skip ahead. So let's get back to Jupiter, is the ruling planet of Sagittarius, which is opposite Gemini. Gemini has to do with the information, learning, teaching, training, conversations, networking, data, computers, because it gives us data, reading, anything that has to do with the brain. Information. We read for information. We have conversations for information, little bits of information, personal information. But Sagittarius, which is opposite, now it's not personal, it's for the whole world information. And that's where we get the values. It's based on all the information and the beliefs. And then it becomes your big picture. So these are the personal bits and pieces of information, like news, but then what you believe is over on this side. So you go to elementary school, which is a Gemini thing, and then you go to the colleges where you're supposed to expand your mind. So Jupiter is expansive. It's enlightening. It's, whoa, look at the big picture. I'm in a brand new world. I'm in a new country. They have different rules over here. They have different foods and different beliefs and different culture. You know, they burp after a meal because that means yes to the hostess. It was delicious. So it's something that we need to adapt. So adaptability is part of the building block of the sign of Gemini and Sagittarius, which is mutable. They're very adaptable. Okay. So I'm giving you the big picture and then the little picture. Zooming in, zooming out. Looking down into the microscope, then looking at the telescope. That's what astrology is. It's a language that we have to look at all the components of the language and then translate. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of math, but there's a lot of language and interpretation. So what does it mean to you is when you take out your natal chart and you start looking at the individual planets of the sky, June 3rd or the 1st, we'll go back and see what's affecting us. Remembering that the planets move at their own pace. So the personal planets, which is the moon, Mercury, sun, Venus, and Mars, move much quicker than Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto, Black Moon, Lilith, and Chiron. I use the Chiron, the asteroid, and the Black Moon, Lilith is an abstract point, just like the part of fortune and the nodes. we see still here, we have energies in Aries and clusters of energies in Gemini and Pisces. So we look at the big picture. We ignore the houses because that is just for the placement of Virginia Beach. So this forecasting and prediction has to do with what we call in astrology, mundane astrology. That's when it's astrology for the whole world. This is not a natal chart. This is a chart of the position of the sky, June 1st, 2024, at 1:29 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. At 36 degrees latitude, 51 minutes, and 76 degrees longitude. And we're using the Koch house system, tropical geocentric positioning. And we use the ephemeris software with an ephemeris. So an ephemeris is tabulation here of the planets and their positioning, and you could clearly see how fast the moon moves, how fast the sun moves, and then we put these in order from the distance of Earth to Pluto, and then the asteroid and black moon Lilith. But you could see Pluto has not moved and will not move in a whole month, and it's retrograde. So these little RXs means that it's retrograde. I'm showing you the tools of astrology because I'm assuming that you're budding astrologers and you're going to be doing astrology for you and your family because that's what's happening right now. Honestly, not everyone can afford an astrologer. So people are learning to do their own astrology. Those of you that are patient and know the steps to take and know that you can't search Google to find this information, well, then you're on the right track. So this here is Greenwich Standard Time, and that's over here on this column. Now on the bottom, it's very important to understand too, these tabulations, they show Eastern Time, Greenwich Mean Time, and they show the positions of the planets and if they have aspects to one another and the sign that they're in. Okay? And this is the last aspect to the moon. So this is specific to the moon, this column. And then here we have the lunar ingress. So you understand what the signs are in the moon. You see how they keep changing, right? Then we have here the planets that ingress, going into a new sign. And this is at a glance. Mercury in Gemini, Mars in Taurus on the 9th, Venus in Cancer on the 17th, Mercury in Cancer on the 17th, and the sun in Cancer on the 20th, plus the summer solstice right here, you see? And then we have all the moon phases. You have the new moon on the 6th of June. I don't go by the quarters. And then the full moon, 1 degree in Capricorn. So thank you for letting me indulge in that side note. It's very important that you understand. Now we're going to go back and look at sky now. So Jupiter in Gemini is a big deal because that means that we're going to have an expansion of information through the news, through computers, through social media. We're going to be bombarded this whole year, tons of information. So keep in mind that this information is going to enlighten you and elevate your perspective, because Jupiter has to do with perception and perspective. Now, when we look at a chart, we look at this 30-degree range. So between this planet here, Uranus and Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, and the sun, they're all within 30 degrees, which means by definition, it's a stellium. That means there's a tremendous amount of energy. It's like a Lamborghini going down the highway with all the bells and whistles. Woohoo! And this all means something. But what stays close together is the Jupiter and the Uranus, because they don't move as quickly as the Mercury, Venus, and the sun. So the next very important spot to look at is the Venus star point. If you haven't heard what a Venus star point is, there's a video that is linked to this one, and it's all about the Venus star point. It's fascinating. This is the second point. So when we make a star, we go from here, up, down, over, and so it forms a star shape, okay? So the contact of Venus and the sun, when it's exact, and it's going to be on June 4th, right here, 14 degrees, and I believe 20 something minutes. Oh, that's 32, 29 minutes. So for a few minutes in time, Venus and the sun are going to be together. And then after a couple of more years, it will be together again to make the third point. The first point was in Libra, and you'll see that in the other video, back in 10/22/2022. That was the beginning. And these cycles, the last time that the Venus star point was in Libra to start this 250-year cycle. So 14 degrees Gemini is a very powerful point in your chart if you have any planets there. So you compare and see, do you have any mutable planets, mutable signs in 14 degrees? And you should have an impact. It's a very powerful, lucky time for you. And it is also the cosmic kiss, because Venus has to do with love and affection, and it has to do with material wealth. And it's next to who? You, the sun. So this is the second time around. And look and see on your chart if you have anything in 14 degrees, and you could give it 1 or 2 degree difference or orb. So we could say from 12 degrees to 16 degrees of Gemini, Sagittarius, and Pisces, because they're mutable, and those are square angles. And that means there's going to be action. You also want to see what house that the Venus sun is in right now. This is powerful. It's going to last a long time, at least 6 months, but it's activated from 2022, and it will continue to 2025. Makes sense? Venus star point is a lucky, lucky spot because it has to do with the ruling signs of Taurus, because it has to do with possessions rather, and it has to do with Libra, which has to do with social possessions, your one-on-one connections. So I dug up some of my notes on the Venus star 8-year cycle, and it's a cosmic clock. It's the heartbeat of the chart here. And it starts with 19 months for each star point. So this effect is going to be 19 months. You already should be feeling it. I know it's amazing how it worked in my chart because my sun is 15 degrees Gemini. So this has positively affected me as far as luck, possessions, income out of nowhere. Very fascinating. And I'd love to hear how it's affecting you in your chart. You should be feeling it already. But we always have to remember that the planet of unexpected, shocking, exciting elements and changes are happening too with possessions. And it's expansive because of Jupiter and information through communication and networking. And this happened to me, where someone just approached me and said, we have this idea. Would you like to come on board? And at first, I was very skeptical. Anyone that has a Saturn in the first house could be skeptical, but that's a good thing because when you have a lot of Neptune in your chart, you need a balance. Otherwise, we would be totally unrealistic. So you have Neptune and Saturn working in the chart to help balance that. So as I said before, 10/22/2022.1 was 29 degrees Libra when Venus and the sun were conjunct. So look it up and see if that's in your chart. That means that there's a huge lucky activation that started and will affect you. And these are all notes from Ariel Gutman. Ariel Gutman did a lot of research. She is the pro. So it's 19 months per star point. So we are in the second star point. Isn't this exciting? Now, the last time that the sun Venus was together was in Libra, like I said, which was in 1770. So even though there may have been revolutions going on and other stuff going on in the world, as we have other things going on now with Pluto in Aquarius 1 degree, and it's going to stay there for a long time, pretty much the year. It only moved 1 or 2 degrees. Now it's on the backswing. And by the way, when a planet is retrograde, it's closest to the Earth than if it's direct. Okay, just FYI, because we have to understand astronomy if we're going to understand astrology, because the language is made up of the reality of the positions in the sky. Get it? And let me know in the comments below how this tutorial is taken. If you have any suggestions, I'm going very methodically and very slowly because we want to fill in all the gaps. There are too many people out there just slam dunking all this information without reference points. The other thing that we need to understand is retrograde. When the planet is retrograde, like Venus, when Venus is retrograde, that means that she is in the evening position, which is the brighter position, which the evening star is in Libra, and that is the brighter Venus, okay? But the morning one is Taurus, right? And that's when it's direct. You see, isn't this interesting? Let me know in the comments below. So remember, when they make the point, they go and make a star point. And this is the second one. It's like the spirograph. So these planets are moving all the time, and the sun and the moon do not retrograde, but all the other ones do. And the nodes usually are retrograde. Most of the time they're retrograde, but that's an abstract point for another video, not at this time. Now, there's a word called Cazimi, and Cazimi, which is spelled Cazimi, is when the Venus sun is in the exact degree and minute in the sign. They're kissing. Okay? When you have, for example, we have on June 4th, we have Jupiter and Mercury that are in the same degree, but not in the same minute. That's called partile. So when we talk astrology, we have words that describe the positioning of the stars, because why do we care if they're close to one another, if they're kissing? Look, just like when two people are really close to one another, it's pretty intimate. So if you didn't take a shower and you close to someone that's been out in the field for a while, you're going to know it, right? It's intimacy, which makes things stronger. The odor stronger. I try to break it down into really mundane stuff. So this love business and this expansion of communication on steroids, because Jupiter in Gemini is also partile, very close to the ruler of Gemini, which is, again, the messenger. We're going to be getting all kinds of messages from the visible and in the invisible world. And if you haven't read the blog post, I speak a little bit about that article about Mercury, Gemini messengers. And there's two kinds of messages. There's the invisible messages that we're getting, and there's also the physical, where social media, et cetera, et cetera. So we talked about the retrograde position. We're not in the retrograde now with the Venus because it is not a retrograde time. So you have all the background information on the Venus star point, and we use the ephemeris, so you know what the ephemeris is about. And the next time on point 3 is going to be, God willing, 1/6/2026, which would have been my father's 100th birthday. So this one is one day before my birthday, the second point. And the third point would, if my father were alive, he would have been 100. I think it's interesting. I always love to see signs. And point 4 will be 19 degrees Leo on August 11th, 2027. And the fifth point, the last one, will be for this whole series, March 23rd, 2029. Now, March 23rd, 2023 was when Pluto went into Aquarius, ingressed into Aquarius. I love to look at the numbers too. You see? So that is the big deal in the beginning of the month. We have the Venus star point situation, which amplified hugely with really powerful information. See how that affects your chart. And then the sudden and unexpected changes in resources, finances, your level of comfort. I don't know if you've noticed, but the economy is suffering right now for whatever reasons. We're not here to discuss it, but we are learning more and more because of this information. And Jupiter has to do with our values and our beliefs. So it changes your belief system. This information could change your belief system. That's what life's about. It's always changing. Now, on the list is, we talked about the Mercury Jupiter, which I call the quick fling. And it doesn't last for too long, because if you see how fast this planet here, Mercury, moves compared to Jupiter, that was hours. Let's see how fast it moves in a day. So we started with June 1st. Here's Mercury over here. And by the 4th, it passes Jupiter. And then it will move on because it goes faster than the sun. It's going to pass all these planets out. You see? Understand that. Now, when we look at June 20th, so let's skip along and see. And we also have to look here. Look at all these green lines. So these planets over here are making a lot of connections to Black Moon Lilith and the South Node in relationships. So there's going to be changes in relationships here because of the Uranus business, because of economy, because of our resources. And Black Moon Lilith has to do with negative emotions. It could be, excuse me, human trafficking, abuse, anything negative, but that negative turns into a positive after time. And the South Node has to do with letting go of what's familiar to the purpose, which is Aries right now. It's all about me, self. You see, let go of people pleasing and people abusing us. And that is going to force us to make some changes and speak out. You see, speak out. Fascinating, isn't it? And then look, Pluto has a trine, which is a flow of energy, a beneficial flow. It's beneficial. It's an easy flow. Let's put it that way. It's not beneficial because it could cause, influence, irreversible changes, some transformation. No more the same person. You change. You're like, I've been there, done that. I'm out of here. When it comes to relationships, see this area here. And your luck, your beliefs, the way you think, the way you speak, what you listen to. This also could represent, this whole cluster could represent too much time on social media, which can be related to anxiety. And if that's the case, you move on accordingly. You change your habits. Because this also, Pluto, this is electronics, science, the future, the connection of the whole world. It's very easy for us to be addicted to social media. Trust me. I love my TikTok. I love my YouTube. I love all of that. So I have to really balance out my productive time, my downtime, and how much it influences me. If you're anxious, you have anxiety, tone down your social media consumption. June 6th. June 6th is when the sun and the moon and Venus, but we're going to ignore Venus for a minute and see that it's conjunct. This is a triple conjunction, by the way. So we have a new moon with love and money together. We can't ignore Venus, but the new moon is in Gemini. And the ritual that I use for the new moon is my new moon journal. And if you don't have a new moon journal, you start with a brand new, never been used notebook of any sort or new sheet of paper and write down your intentions in present form and hold that intention for at least 17 seconds, excuse me. That way you feel that energy. What would it be like if you're going to what if positive stuff? What if your dreams come true? Because they do. The only reason why your dreams and your goals have not come to fruition is because negative thinking, you don't believe it, it's not possible, and now you canceled the order to the universe. So it's a good time to get clear on what you love and write it down. Think about it, write it, and anything that has to do with communication, networking, teaching, training, brothers and sisters, information, data. Okay. New moon, set that intention. And that's going to be June 6th. See right here. Then on the 20th, and you can watch the planets go around. But remember that Neptune is in its ruling sign of Pisces in the critical degree of 29, which means it's on steroids. It's extra strong. Neptune represents escape, victim, being in the fog, confusion. You can't see clearly, rose-colored glasses, magical, music, because it helps us escape, dance, it helps us escape, meditation, it helps us escape, connecting to God, faith. I believe. This is very strong stuff. And look, it's making a relationship too. These sudden, shocking, exciting changes with our resources. You know, it's sometimes when you're in a very difficult spot, you will go to the higher power and ask for help if you're smart. So we have to understand that this is a very potent point and it's stationing. Stationing means that it's in the same degree. Let's move this here. The same degree. This is the month of June. See, 29 degrees for the whole month. You see, it's stationing. So if you have anything 28, 29 degrees Pisces, or another mutable sign, which would be Gemini and Sagittarius, and 0 to 1 degrees of a cardinal sign, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, you're going to feel this confusing, escapist, I want to have a drink, let's do some drugs type energy. Okay. You with me, everybody? Good. So we're going back here to the 20th. And you could see, we could talk about Mars joining Chiron. Chiron's an asteroid. Mars is the planet of action, and it's in its ruling sign, and it's in a critical degree approaching 29, but I still consider it critical. Extra aggression right now. And it's approaching Chiron. The slower planet is the stationary one. I mean, it stays put because the faster one will pass it out. That's what we call applying. So these dotted lines are separating, and the solid lines mean that it's applying. It tells you which planet is doing the moving. And when we talk astrology, we say the faster planet first. Mercury is conjunct Jupiter, even though this is a 2 and this is an 8. We always start with the faster planet. Okay? So understand that there may be some aggression that is going to cause some pain and suffering, and it's self. It could be self-inflicted pain and suffering, but also because it's the wounded healer, it could be self-healing. There's a lot of self-help books out there. There are a lot of self-help modalities, including astrology and psychic readings. You see, when we look at the predictions and the forecast, we have to look at the whole thing. So this is going to stay pretty much together. I give it a 10-degree orb. That means 10 degrees from 22 is 12 degrees Aries to 2 degrees Taurus. Okay. Then I don't think it's an influence, but the closer they are, like, remember back here when they were partile, this is partile, or Cazimi, which is exact to the minute. That's super strong. Okay. So we're moving ahead now, and see how these lines are here. These are oppositions. They're geometric relationships. The red ones are more strong. So there's levels of strength always in the chart, and some of these mitigate each other, soften the effects. But there's a lot of energy with relationships to this whole Gemini information area, and then Black Moon Lilith and relationships up here as we move through. So check it out. It keeps moving. And Pluto is really affecting change up here. This is quick change. This is slow change. And then Black Moon Lilith, which negative emotions. Let's see how that works out for you. And on the 20th, we have the summer solstice. But notice here, before we hit the summer solstice, we have a triple conjunction again with Sun, Mercury, and Venus. So for half the month, there's a strong influence, loving information. We're going to be glued to our devices if that's how we get our information. There's going to be a lot of information. However, see, Jupiter is now way up here. Before, they were close together, but now it stands alone up here, you see? Now, the sun is 25 degrees Gemini, and Black Moon Lilith, excuse me, is 25 degrees Virgo, and they're both mutable. So that means it's an exact square. So let's pay attention and see what's going to happen on that day. These are probabilities and possibilities. Doesn't mean that anything's going to happen. But what's interesting is that there's energy going from Black Moon Lilith to Mars, which is action, aggression, anger sometimes, and Saturn, which is another heavy one, which has to do with responsibilities, duty, diligence, discipline, hard work. You see, a need to balance. And then it goes to Pluto, the change, irreversible change, transformation. So see what that means in your chart. We're approaching the solstice now, and it's coming. What are we looking for on the solstice? That's when the sun goes to zero, ingresses into 0 degrees Cancer. That's the solstice. Okay. And there it is on the 20th. It's really the 20th here because I want to be precise. You see, 0 degrees, 0 minutes. You want to be precise when you look at this stuff. And if I went back, you know, maybe 10 minutes, it will put me to 0 degrees, 0 minutes. And so on June 20th, around 5 o'clock p.m., Virginia Beach time, we have a summer solstice, which is triple conjunction again with Mercury and Venus. I hope you realize that these guys have been traveling together most of the month. Okay, interesting, isn't it? Where this guy slow moving, this one too ain't moving this month, this one either not moving this month. And the moon, every 3 days, it moves to another sign, goes from here to here to here to here, spins around in 1 month. So that's the summer solstice. And then on the 21st, guys, here we go. We're going to move into a full moon in 1 degree Capricorn. So look on your chart and see where that 1 degree Capricorn is in your chart. And we're going to move this up to 1 degree Capricorn. Here it is, 0 degrees Capricorn, and it's opposite the sun. So exactly opposite would make it 1 degree Capricorn, and there we have it. But it's also opposite Venus, Mercury. You see? So it's not just a need to release too much nurturing, too much emotion, and too much business and commanding, top-down energy and achievement, and that parental energy of you do what I tell you. There's a need to balance here. You see? So see how that works. The other ritual that we do is the new moon release, and on the full moon release. And on the full moon, what you do is you put on a piece of paper, write down everything you want to get rid of and release, right? And you could burn it, shred it, and let it go. You could put crystals on your new moon journal and on your releasing. It doesn't matter. But when you put the intention, that's a ritual, then you help release it. So if you want to release anxiety with family and work-related issues, now's the time. See, this is going to be an interesting time. Notice corporations are being sued for crazy mandates that they've been doing. People are fed up. Family is very important right now, okay? Because now we're in the sign of family. The sun is in family. We're going to talk about that next month. So that's the big picture there. And I want to make sure that we understand, yes, that at the end of the month, we talked about Neptune, and we want to look at Black Moon Lilith, which is my favorite. Black Moon Lilith represents the dark side of the moon, and the symbolism is right here. And towards the end of the month, we go into Libra. So, and it has a weird cycle. Okay, you can see it kind of jumps. So it's actually at the end, it's in the middle of July, but it wobbles. So remember that Black Moon Lilith wobbles. It does like a wave motion, and it will last for a whole year in Libra once it gets in there. So right now it's in Virgo, but it will go into Libra. What does it represent? It represents the dark emotions of a human being, the hidden elements of a human being, things that we don't see, things that you don't even see about yourself. It could be any kind of abuse. It could be human trafficking. It could be empowerment because of abuse or something negative. It could be prostitution where you're detached completely. Think about it. When people do abuse other people, they are detached. They're not compassionate and seeing the effects of their behavior on the other. But it also is a very powerful, instinctive element in the chart. It's a feminine instinct in the chart. So Black Moon Lilith is an area that you want to look at and see, are there any planets in your chart that are being affected by this 27 degrees all the way back to see how it went into, on the 11th, it went into Libra. So it wobbles back and forth. And then it will go into Scorpio after that. So if you have any planets or points, like the angles, you look at these angles in your chart that are going to be affected by Black Moon Lilith between Virgo and Libra, pay attention and see how that works. So we have covered quite a bit today. It was a long tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you need my help, please feel free to contact me through email, text. I'm very approachable. If you have any questions concerning what we discussed, let us know. If you need your forecast astrology chart done or a reading, let us know. You can schedule it in the website on the scheduling calendar. And have a wonderful June. And till next time, all my love, guys. All my love.